Welcome to day 41 of our prayer mobilization journey together. Today's scripture comes from 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 15. It says this, "But in your hearts revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect." A couple of things stand out to me from that verse, and the first is just the question that seems to be in my face. Do you have a hope that is so unique, so noticeable, so optimistic, so magnetic that someone is bound to ask about it? I'm asking myself that. I don't know. I've never had somebody come and say, "Tell me about this hope you have." But someone could see something different in me if I lived in that way. I believe if we go through the daily life, living our lives for ourselves, nobody will notice because that's normal. That's what everybody in our world tends to do. But if we can live our lives for God's kingdom, a different purpose, what we do every moment through the day, why we do it, if we live our lives for others in this way, I believe people will notice because it is different. Not everybody does that in our world. In 1 Corinthians 6, it says that you are not your own, but you've been bought with a price. Therefore, honor God with your body. And this just checks me in my spirit. Not to just possess my own time, my day, the minutes, the hours, whatever I plan to do, but to remember there's a greater purpose, and I've been bought with a price to serve that purpose. And it's not a cost or a burden to me, but it is a privilege and a gift that we get to live in this way. The second thing that really grabs me is when he mentions at the end gentleness and respect. And it seems to me that in our world these two things are lost often. Social media, interactions in public. It's often we can see the bad. I think there's plenty of respect and gentleness around, but we tend to notice the negatives that stick out. When we look around at our world, it's so easy to shake our heads and be discouraged when we see all of those bad things. That's what the news is reporting to us, all of those negatives. And we can see those and just miss our part in the world, what we should be doing. The hope that this passage is talking about, the hope of Christ, is not policing morality. The hope of Christ isn't trying to make everybody else do what they're supposed to do, but bringing God's kingdom into our world wherever we find ourselves. That's the hope of Christ. We get to live in that different kingdom and bring it with us wherever we go. Those places, especially where it is needed, we have the privilege of bringing that. That's a great hope. And when we're faithful to show up again and again in desperate situations, in difficult places with the hope of Christ, I believe people sooner or later will ask. And I pray we're prepared to give them the response why we have that hope. Today's prayer says this: Lord, make us instruments of your gentleness and respect toward humanity. Make us conduits of the grace that only comes from the sacrificial love you have shown us. I pray that you will be blessed today as you look around and find places to bring the hope of Christ.